Entrepreneur's Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneur's Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am your host, as always, Seth. Today I have a friend of mine, Mike Spidaliere. I can't say his last name. I was going to call him Mike. He can pronounce it for us. It's, I think, Italian, so go figure. A lot of vowels in there. So anyhow, Mike is a four-time founder, currently working on his newest venture, First-Time Founder Capital. And what that is, be the bridge between the founder and the funder, and offering a curated strategic deal flow to his growing network of active investors. So he's helping the founders connect to the funders, and that can get really tied up in my Philadelphia voice of founders and funders and all that stuff. And he's been around the block a bunch, and he's using his knowledge to help people get funded as their founders. So let's bring him in here, and we'll talk about this past and all that good stuff. Hey, Mike. Now, how do you say your name? I got it, then I lost it, and I got it, then I lost it. Oh,
you almost had it. I could hear it. Spidaliere.
Spidaliere. So now I got it perfectly. Go figure.
There we go. You just needed to hear it.
Yeah, you're all. I forgot to mention you're also a mentor for Founders Institute. You're a Techstars mentor as well. So
yeah, I'm a mentor for Techstars. One locally here called See Ahead. I'm going to be mentoring for Visible Hands coming up as well. I advise a handful of companies and, of course, work with a bunch in the first-time founder capacity.
That's awesome. So how did this all get started? Have you ever worked a corporate job in your life? Are you one of those lifetime founders who just kind of started out of college, decided to do his own thing? Like, what's the origin story of Mike here?
So I did work a corporate sales job at one point while I was working on building my second company. So I'll get to that. But corporate, not my thing.
No,
definitely not set up for my type of thinking. So I started my first company in college about 6 months before graduation. Went to school for music on the production side. Ended up creating an entertainment startup. Difficult industry to get into, but we were a tad early. We were focused on content creators, essentially building a one-stop shop for all of their needs to build a business off of doing what they love. And we had a whole video side of curated content. So it was a pretty big platform play. We kept that going for about 4 years. The latter two.
When was this? In the early teens?
Yeah, started in 2014.
Oh wow! So you were a little early, not terribly. Not terribly early. Not like we had James Green on the show way back when this airs, but he did Netflix for VHS cassettes. Way too early. Way too early. Slightly early.
Yeah, we were 10 minutes early to the party and decided to leave before the party started. That as we were dissolving that company, I was actually working on opening up the first legal cannabis-friendly cafe out in Denver. So big shift from web CEO to physical spaces CEO in the cannabis space, having to deal with local officials, having to deal with real estate agents, sourcing coffee beans, designing a coffee shop. It was
cannabis, no doubt. Cannabis alone.
Yeah, it was a whole different ballgame. Was loving that. I mean, a lot of the people in Denver very excited about it. As you can imagine, the roadblocks that were put up after that bill was passed. I started working on it right before the bill was actually passed. I saw that it was on the floor, knew that something was going to come of it. So started building the infrastructure for that. We ended up getting pushed into a position that we would have had to see massive profit per square footage in order for us to be viable. So we ended up backburnering that. Fast forward to the beginning of the pandemic, I was asked to join an impact startup studio based in Denver as well, working on bringing together.
Is that where you went to school in Denver, I assume?
No, so I went to school in Florida.
How'd you live in Denver?
I lived in Austin for 9 months, and then got the call from the first CEO that we were starting to gain some traction, and all the founders were moving to Denver. So,
And you got on a plane and moved.
oh yeah, I in a second there. I am a big skier and rock climber,
Oh,
so it was a no brainer.
no
Um,
brainer. Yeah.
so the startup studio in Denver was bringing together a bunch of entrepreneurs to build companies in industries that were hit hardest by COVID. So think things like food, supply chain, um, all of that. So I ended up meeting my most recent co-founder, Jason, in that studio the first day. He had an idea to bring some hardware and software into food delivery because
Ooh.
food delivery was scaling rapidly and food waste was scaling alongside it. So we were working on cutting into some of that waste and making a good profit alongside that. We ran into some trouble a little bit down the line, unfortunately. So um,
But it's
we
all
ended
about
up
feeling fat. But that's what people have to realize is that there's nothing wrong with hitting roadblocks. There's nothing wrong with failing fast or being too early to the party, realizing that you're too early and trying something different. There's nothing wrong with any of this. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
No, they've all been incredible learning experiences.
Exactly.
Even the hardest ones, right? Even the largest and longest falls still teach you. I started doing some business development consulting after that,
Mhm.
and focused on things like go-to-market strategy, helping companies with new revenue stream assessment, sales strategy audits, all that fun stuff.
So more of a
Um,
service-based business.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So slowly stepping into fundraising consulting, started to see the need for that. I ended up connecting a founder to an investor from my past, and that investor closed that client's round. So that sort of gave me an understanding of
Yeah.
the need here. Um, so I jumped straight in, and
Why
that's where
not?
first time founder capital came in. So as you mentioned, I'm brought in by early stage founders, pre-seed to Series A, to help build
Mhm.
and fortify a strong foundation for their successful fundraise.
Yeah.
Um, so think things like helping them determine how much they need to raise, their valuation targets, who their ideal investor is, how to build a data room that tells the right story, pitch deck pitch, all the necessary building blocks to actually get
Yeah.
a round closed. And alongside that, I've been building a network of active investors, having one-on-one calls with them to dive into their thesis, really understand who they're looking to invest in, typical check size,
So
industry
you're
focus,
a
all that.
professional connector, essentially is what you are, a
Yeah,
professional
yeah,
connector, which is kind of an important thing that I think people overlook is using your network and connecting people. And you're making it into an actual business, which is really cool. So,
yeah. It's fun. So I help companies get to a point where they're really armed to the teeth for their fundraise, and then I connect them with investors that are curated and strategically positioned to help them move forward.
oh, that's so awesome. So you said you had a brief stint in corporate and you weren't made for corporate. What is the best thing about being an entrepreneur in your mind? I mean, because you've had the ups, you've had the downs, you've had the ups again, you've had the downs again. What's the best part about it though?
Yeah, I was listening to My First Million a couple weeks ago, and one of the hosts, John, was talking about how entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster,
Right.
and there are ups and downs, and you when you get on, you got to understand that there are really high highs and very low lows. Um,
Mhm.
the best part, I mean, I like the freedom.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. I'm out here sort of determining my own fate,
Yes.
instead of coming in and being forced to sit in an office for 8 hours when I can get the work done in three.
Yeah.
Um, so it's the ability to work like a lion, and do fast sprints, and really work on anything I want to. I think that's the biggest part of the freedom that I love is being able to talk to who I want to and build what I want. Um, and it's I mean I learned more in my first startup than I learned throughout high school and college,
Oh, you always do.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean the constant and consistent learning and having to put out fires by learning something new, and progress your business by learning something new, and just ingesting all of this this data is fascinating to me.
Oh, it's and then on the flip side, what keeps you up at night? Being a founder and all this stuff.
Uh, with the freedom and the flexibility comes the existential dread that you're not doing enough,
Oh yeah,
right?
I can
You
sympathize with
you
that. Yeah,
lay Yeah, you lay in bed thinking I should have been doing more. I should have accomplished more. Even though, some days uh the accomplished list is significant, it
yeah.
doesn't make the days that aren't as significant any less uh in your head when you're trying to sleep.
Oh, absolutely. I totally sympathize with that. And finally, what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Isn't that a good one? I love that
That's a
question.
good one. I mean, the phone's important. I
Oh yeah,
can't deny that. Having email and LinkedIn in my pocket is definitely necessary. I would say the idea of that, the positive side of things, right? Even on
Mhm.
even on bad days, thinking about perspective, I would say, is
Yeah,
probably the most important thing, because I consider some days down days, and even
yeah,
on those days, I'm talking to some of the greatest investors. I'm the back end, the busy work
yeah.
is potentially going to lead to a founder realizing their dreams,
That's
being
awesome.
able
Yeah,
to being able to afford to pursue these moonshot ideas,
yeah,
that are going to be incredible if they can pull it off. So I think the perspective aspect is very important, because it's very easy to get down in the dumps. It's very easy to
yeah,
let it's easy to build that down part of the roller coaster
yeah.
even more until you're through the ground. So perspective is something that I find is very important to stay on
Yeah.
that course and actually see those ups again.
I love that. That is so true. And so Mike, where's your watering hole online? If people want to connect with you, where can they find you? Where do you hang out the most? I mean, some people say Instagram, some people say LinkedIn. I'm assuming LinkedIn.
Yeah, you assume correctly. That's been a huge tool for me. When I'm
Great.
not in LinkedIn, I'm in my Airtable that I have set up, that has all my investors, my clients, all the investor conversations, all of that. So definitely find me on LinkedIn. I can't imagine there are any Mike Spidalieres out there that are going to take that first spot over me. So it shouldn't be too hard to
No, I
find.
find
But
you every time. I just can't say your last name, but I can find you every time though, so that's a good thing. So
that is a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to chat with founders, regardless of how early the idea is. I still have a few investors on the list that are truly investing in napkin ideas, pre-revenue, pre-traction. So
it's really nice.
there's always an opportunity here. But I'm always interested in talking to new founders, helping them figure out how to build the right strategy, get to a point where bringing in someone like me makes sense.
Yeah,
And always happy to talk to more investors. If you're looking for curated strategic deal flow, let me know.
absolutely. So Mike, this has been so awesome. I'm so glad we got you on. And guess what? We'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.